Well guys, we had the first vote on the internal market bill last night, and as most of you will likely know, it passed with 340 votes for it and 263 against, meaning some Tory MPs abstained or voted against it. Now I have to say, in my opinion, abstaining is just as bad as voting against it. You have betrayed us all, or as David Starkey said.
So these are people who betray the three Ps. They betray the people, they betray their party, and they betray Parliament. And I'm going to say something else. In any other country but ours, their behaviour would have been described as treason. They deliberately undercut a national position in negotiation with a foreign power. Now that should be the final badge of shame. It puts you in the same category, I'm afraid, as Jeremy Corbyn with his consorting with IRA terrorists. So it's triple shame, quadruple shame.
Now after the vote, the House of Commons released the names of the people who voted and obviously those who didn't. And these are the Tory traitors who abstained from it, so we all remember who these people are. 30 of them in total, including some big names, so pause the video if you need to make sure you can have a good look at them all. I will leave it up there for a couple of seconds more. Now there was two low-life traitorous tosspots that went the full distance and actually voted against it, joining Labour against the people and their manifesto promises. These scumbags are Sir Roger Gale representing North Thanet and Percy Andrew representing Brig and Gaul. For their betrayal of the British people, in my opinion, both should have the whip withdrawn instantly and recall petitions started under the Recall of MPs Act 2015. They no longer have the right to sit on them green benches or earn that money from the public purse. Of course, 195 Labour MPs voted against this bill, but that is no surprise to me. But it does give the Tories a nice little angle against Labour, since they voted against protecting Northern Ireland and instead backed the EU position yet again. The Labour leader, as he's now known, Captain Hindsight, abstained because he knows Boris will have him by the balls on that one, but abstaining is just as bad as voting against it, as I've already said. Now the Express picked up on this, talking about who voted for what and who didn't. They actually give a full list, which I'm not going to read out. You have the picture there, and obviously if you want to see what Labour MPs did what, you can check that by going on the government's website. I will try and link it in the video description if I remember. It headlines, Internal Market Bill Vote. How did your MP vote on Internal Market Bill last night? The Internal Market Bill has been a controversial topic in recent days, and MPs voted on the issue in the House of Commons on Monday night. But how did your MP vote on the Internal Market Bill? Well, considering my MP will be Labour, you can bet your bollocks to a barn dance how that cunt voted. But anyway, back to the article. The Internal Market Bill has been widely criticised by MPs on both sides of the political spectrum for disrespecting international law by overriding the withdrawal agreement, which it doesn't actually do. And saying it's been criticised by MPs on both sides is a bit of a stretch. Most of these motherfuckers are a bunch of low-life Remainers, and let's be honest, the Tories are not that far from Labour at this point. As I've said many times before, Labour and the Conservatives are essentially two cheeks of the same arsehole. One is just a little less smothered in shit than the other. When the union between England, Wales and Scotland was created, the internal market made sure there was open and unhindered trade across the four nations. When the UK joined the European Economic Community in 1973, most British trade laws were replaced by European laws, while Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have power over some policy areas they could not contradict EU law. Which is exactly why the bill is there, because the UK need to take back control of these trade laws within their own country. It's kind of common sense, but obviously the media and the left-wing shitweasels in the opposition parties have jumped on the bandwagon because they got nothing else, and don't actually bother holding the government to account for the things that they've actually done. Now we've also gone through what the bill actually includes. I will link this article down there if you want to read that bit on it. I'm not going to go through it. And it also goes on about former Attorney General Geoffrey Cox, which I covered in a video yesterday. I will link it in a card above, once again, if I remember. If not, you can find it on the channel if you haven't seen it already. But now we get to a little bit of information about the voting last night. The Labour Party have failed to block the vote on the Internal Market Bill, and so a second reading will take place, which is where we might well see those 30 Tory MPs go from abstaining to actually voting against the government, which means every single single one of them should have the whip withdrawn, and we should get recall petitions going in their respective communities. If you go against the manifesto you were elected on, then at the end of the day you should give up your seat and recontest it. Let the people of this country decide whether you deserve to stay in the Houses of Parliament. Obviously, we know these MPs have no dignity, so they ain't gonna do that, which leaves it up to us to make sure we get them out. The MPs who voted the bill through mainly came from the Tory party, with 340 votes from the Conservatives. The opposition mostly voted against the bill, with 195 out of 213 votes coming from the Labour Party. Because as we know, the Labour Party are against Brexit, and the British people in general, it's not up for debate at this point. The Liberal Democrats voted mostly against the bill passing, with 11 members casting their votes against the Prime Minister. I'm pretty sure they've only got 11 MPs anyway, so that is every single one of them. Former Chancellor Sajid David, yeah, his name is Sajid Javid, you idiot, became the latest senior Tory to warn he would not support the Prime Minister's controversial bill. Mr Javid said, "It is not clear to me why it is necessary for the UK to break international law. Well, we won't be unless, of course, we are forced. But like I've said, given the way the EU have acted, we can easily do that and rip the fucking withdrawal agreement up. He will know this, let's be honest." He goes on, "I am regretfully unable to support the UK Internal Market Bill unamended. The government was widely expected to win this vote, with the focus really on the size of its victory. The result indicates a fair number of Conservative MPs absented from the vote, but it is a tricky situation, as some could just be away from Parliament at the moment." Which, I don't know about that, I ain't really buying it. I'm expecting that most, if not all, of the 30 who abstained don't agree with the bill. Let's be honest, we've heard enough of them coming out, screaming and shouting over the last few days. They might as well join the fucking Labour Party. The bill will now move to committee stage to be debated and amended further. And that is essentially the end of the article there. The rest of it just lists the people who voted for it. I'm not going to read through that. There's like 600 odd names. It will take all day. And like I said, you can get this information from the government's website. Obviously, you have now seen the picture of the 30 Tory MPs who have abstained. The opposition parties you always knew were going to vote against this. It's what they actually do. But like I said, we must remember these Tory traitors, and hopefully get the whip withdrawn and get them out of the Houses of Parliament. They do not deserve to sit in their seat if they vote against what the people of this country voted for many times before, including in the election that got them the seat they sit in. This Parliament is already bad enough. We really don't need it going back to how it was like last year, that is for sure.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.